Hey, welcome. Give us a couple of minutes while we get set up and we will kick off.
Hello.
How
I'm
are
great.
you?
Sorry I'm late.
No problem at
Yeah,
all.
it's I get stuck making a cup of coffee. It's fine. We will talk about things getting stuck. So it's kind of fitting, I think.
It's a good start.
Yeah, I like eventually it was resolved and we will start with this topic. But back when it happened, it was kind of less fun at the moment, but all well that kind of gets unstuck eventually.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this incident that we had earlier this week. I don't remember which day it was. I will find it in a second, but it happened relatively late at night, and my wife said that I never woke up this quickly because she was the one who got the call that the Beam blockchain stopped, and yeah, so she had to wake me up. Now she knows, the secret. Um,
Yeah,
I hope she does not abuse it because, with great power to wake me up comes great responsibility.
absolutely.
But it was lucky that Vladi was not asleep yet, and we kind of started investigating. And we got a lot of help from the miners, from the two pool and some others. I don't exactly know the names of the pools, but it was really fortunate that they were around and they really helped. Because what happened was that it wasn't immediately clear at first why this happened. Like last time that happened was like 4 years ago or something, and back then it was that it just was not possible to build a block out of the transactions. But now, when we like investigated, it was kind of strange because it seemed that it's possible to make the block, and then it's also possible to mine it. However, after the mining, the block was declined by the node, and that's what caused the stoppage. So what we
Okay.
did, we added some logs and kind of released this intermediate fix, which also fixed another issue that I will like mention in a second, but it's not related to the actual problem that we're trying to investigate. So after we have added the logs and it happened again, we were finally able, and by we, I mean Vladi was finally able to understand what is going on and eventually resolve this. So what happened was that, uh, as you know, we now have high frequency transactions.
Yeah.
And these transactions are different from regular transactions in that they are required to be included in a certain order. So basically, whoever produces the high frequency transaction specifies exactly after which other transaction this transaction should be positioned, and it kind of creates this strict ordering in the block. And we also have regular transactions which can be rearranged in terms of inputs to optimize the block and also to increase the like basically like disassociate the inputs and outputs from the actual kind of transaction ordering, which also improves privacy. And what happened was that in very rare, like not rare, but very like specific scenario where there was like more than 32 transactions in a block, and also included high frequency transactions. And also it didn't like happen always, but only sometimes that the order of those high frequency transactions got mixed up during the ordering. And then it
Okay.
basically resulted in this behavior that the block was not accepted.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So a number of aspects needed for it to happen, kind of thing.
Yes. So it did require a combination of circumstances, which for our kind of like we're lucky that it happened often enough that we could catch it and reproduce it and fix it.
Yeah.
So the miners were immediately provided with like kind of unsigned Linux build to try it out, which they did, and also the official hotfix will be released like I think really soon, probably later today. So that was kind of the story of of the incident. One thing we did discover in addition to that, which is also important for miners, is a bug that's specific for the 7.3 release, which, as you remember, includes the hardware wallet support. And
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it's related to a configuration. Like when you're doing mining, you can do it in one of two ways. You can either provide your mining key directly to the node, or in some cases, you can connect your wallet to the node. And when you connect your wallet, uh, the node chooses to mine with the wallet and not with the mining key, even if it is provided. So it means that it's better, like if you don't trust, for example, that your node can be maybe hacked, or you do not really want to expose your mining key to the node which is running on the cloud somewhere. So this is why we have kind of these two options to like configure a mining node with using either the mining key or the wallet. So the bug was that with this wallet configuration, it used incorrect numbering of keys to both register and recognize the mine UTXO. So from the miner perspective, it was like they get the mining reward, but they cannot spend it, right? They cannot see it.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, like it's resolved also in this hotfix, and it was actually resolved in the first one, the one that included the additional logs. So now it's all fine, and we believe that miners can safely upgrade to 7.3, like, and actually are required to do so because it will prevent all of these kind of problems with the block creation from happening. So once, like, if you're a miner, once you get this message, and obviously we will also like tweet it and retweet it as we already did,
Yeah.
uh, you will upgrade um, to 7.3, and everything should go smoothly from this front.
Wicked.
Yeah. So okay, so moving forward, we do have a lot of topics to talk about today. We have a long list. So, let's kind of get started. Just was important to get this incident out of the way. By the way, we just published an article which explains exactly all of the details, what happened and when. So you're welcome to read it. So yeah, it was addressed. Um, so before we start with the questions, I would like to mention a couple of interesting developments on within the Beam ecosystem. First of all, did you see this new asset 69?
I did. I wasn't familiar with it, but I saw it the other day and chuckled and thought not much of it.
Uh,
But then earlier in our discussion, you mentioned that it also has the ID 69 and the asset, like the mint amount was also 69, which I thought was very fun and quite clever.
yeah, I also kind of so first of all, not a trading advice. I have no idea who created this asset or why. But I thought it was, yeah, when I saw it, I was like, it was really funny and cool because, as you said, like it has the idea of 69. It's called 69, and it has exactly 69 kind of emission limit
Yeah.
created by an asset minter, which is great and funny. And currently, it's really trading up. It costs about 3,500 beam for 169. Yeah, which is I think it's really funny and cool in a way. So yeah, like wanted to give a shout out to whoever did that. Once again, not a trading advice, like, but I think it's nice and worth mentioning.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is one thing that I always come back to in crypto as well. Like, have fun. And whatever way or whatever you find fun, then do that. And this made me chuckle.
For sure. It's really nice, and it shows like how easy it is to create a new asset, and yeah, I believe it's very cool. So another great kind of development and improvement is to the Beam Assets .com website, which shows you a lot of information about Beam confidential assets, the DEX, the like all kinds of statistics about Beam outside of like the scope of the current Explorer, which is kind of outdated, and we're also working to improve it. But it is kind of a very important thing to be able to kind of see exactly what is happening on chain for many different purposes, both like newcomers to understand what is happening, how much activity is there, and also to do kind of a deeper look into specific assets, specific trades, specific pools, etc. So it's very welcome initiative. And obviously, we're going to help with anything that we can. It's based on the new API that was added to the Blockchain Explorer, and it's returning the JSON formatted kind of metadata about all of the assets and the corresponding transactions, so you can trace like all of the trades that were made, like all of the mints, deposits, and other kind of relevant information. So yeah, great work, and thank you very much. Obviously, the new website looks amazing. I really kind of smile every time I visit our website every once in a while, and the documentation looks much better when it is on the website and kind of well organized. We still have a lot of work to do there, but it's great to have it on the website finally. And also the new downloader, which verifies the SHA, the hash of the file when you download it. I think it's very pretty and useful, because most people do not do this manually. Obviously, like you should, right? When you download the sensitive piece of software, you should verify that it's correct, but it's annoying, and it requires more work. So it's most people skip this part. But now with the downloader, it says like the file is authenticated because the downloader itself verifies the SHA, which is, I believe, a great feature to have, and it also looks amazing.
Very cool, and I can definitely relate to anyone that skips that part, although definitely encourageable to do. And now sounds very easy and great feature to have.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. Like obviously, we all do that. We all say, yeah, you absolutely should do it, and like nobody really does it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is important. So with these kind of great developments, and I'm sure I'm forgetting quite a few, because there is actually a lot of activity. So one of the questions that was kind of discussed in the community, and it's a topic that was already debated about like before the last hard fork, is the CA, the fees for registering a new CA, right?
Yeah.
And the point, like kind of the reason why this discussion was kind of renewed is because of now that it's so easy and cheap to create new CA on Beam. So there is a risk of kind of, I would say, like a lot of kind of strange and not used or kind of abused coins being created. And the discussion was about like, should it be more expensive to create a CA? And if you remember back before the fork, it was crazy expensive. Like it was like 3,000 Beam to create a new confidential asset. And then we have decided to reduce it to 10, which made it much more kind of accessible for anyone. So I would say that, in my opinion, and once again, like it's my opinion, and we can continue talking about this. First of all, the reason we did it back then was one of the reasons was because of the DEX. Because every time you create a new pool on the DEX, it creates a new LP token, and you would have to pay the full price for creating a new CA every time that you create a new pool. And we didn't think that it was fair or a good idea to kind of seriously limit the amount of pools that you want to create only to those who are willing to pay 3,000 Beam. Just to remind you, today anyone can create a pool, even if it's empty, and then somebody can put the initial liquidity, which determines the initial price. So it's very kind of democratic process in that regard. And I think it's good to have a lot of pools and like easy ability to create new ones in terms of like ecosystem development. However, I also completely agree with the problem of like having tons of you know CA created and pools created. And what we, in my opinion, need to do to resolve this is to improve our UI significantly. So first of all, in terms of the DEX, in the first version, there was a problem with the favorites. It should be resolved now. So basically, any pool that you participate in or interested in, you can just add it to favorites, and it should be immediately displayed when you open the DEX application. And this will allow you to only see those pools that you are interested in. In terms of the assets, we do have the setting, and we also have some issues with that and the bugs that will be fixed in the next version. But this is the way to go, in my opinion. So just remove or hide the assets that you know to be either scams or incorrect. And by the way, the Beam Asset site does great job in this regard because it marks all of the assets that are called Beam or BeamX, which are not the official ones, as fake ones. There are also tokens that are called AMML in order to mimic the LP tokens of certain pools. So yeah, basically we will make sure that only the things that you think you are interested in will be displayed. Now, there are two kind of sides to this story. For the first perspective is, yeah, like we do need to make sure that you can always identify the asset, and this is why we always add the ID to like every screen where you can see or interact with the asset. Is very important. But we do not want to kind of say, oh, this one is scam, this one is not, like as a like providers of the infrastructure. Because back in the day, if you remember, when we wanted to add some kind of official like check mark on the asset, there was a lot of criticism, and the correct one that says like, wait a second, like who decides like what's official, what's not official, right?
Yeah.
And we totally agreed with that. And what we'll try to do is to provide the resources and the mechanisms for the community to be kind of the who decides on what is and what isn't kind of accepted. And obviously, each and every user for himself can decide, listen, I don't want to see that asset, or like uh, it's not interesting to me. Like just hide it from me, and I don't want to see it again.
Yeah, makes sense. And like I think that is the right way to go, and how we did have that discussion before, and more remaining kind of credibly neutral when it comes to any of the assets and this kind of stuff. As
Yeah.
long as everyone has the tools available to kind of check out what they want, and that's all.
Yeah, so that's kind of my opinion on the subject. And once again, like we can discuss that further. Um, Another topic also related to the CA is the transfer of ownership. So right now, when you create a new confidential asset, it's only tied to the seed that have created it. And there is
Okay.
no mechanism, yeah, that allows you to transfer the ownership of the asset neither to another person or a contract.
Okay.
So one of the things that we are considering to be added in the next hard fork, because changing this behavior requires a hard fork, to be sure.
Yeah.
We're considering to add this as an option in the next hard fork. So it would be possible to either like update the asset metadata or to transfer ownership, especially to the contract, because like in some cases, the asset was created outside of the contract with like unlimited supplies of the moment, but you either wish to have limited supply or you want to change completely the behavior of the asset issuance. So we believe it might be useful, and this is one of the kind of issues and features on the list for the hard fork. So it's been noted and yeah, handled.
Okay.
Another application that was requested by the community and we are like working on is kind of more generalized asset lock and liquidity farming app. Just like we have the one for BMax that you can, basically lock the LP tokens from the Beam BMax pool and farm BMax. So it's an idea that, is required or kind of useful for many projects, not just kind of Beam BMax. And it serves two purposes. So first of all, when you are approaching a new asset that you're not familiar with, and you see that like at least some of this asset is locked, it might provide some additional information about the seriousness of the project and things like that. And also, obviously, if the creator of the project wants to incentivize, their audience with some liquidity mining on the pool, they should be able to do that. So we are providing this kind of more generalized version of this liquidity mining application that can support many different assets. It's
Nice.
still work in progress, yeah, but it's something that was requested and we're going to address.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Very like useful to have these types of contracts that other projects can use and this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Um, so, for example, like the asset minter, I think is like one of those kind of more useful applications that make the process of creating an asset much simpler than it used to be. It used to be kind of relatively complicated endeavor involving command line wallets and all these kind of geeky technical things. Now we just can mint one in a second. Well, in a minute. Or in a few minutes, unless the blockchain is stuck, and then it could be an hour and a half, but that actually rarely happens. Um, so regarding DEX, once again, like a lot of questions and a lot of great suggestions. Starting from hiding illiquid pools. And we did try to kind of add this functionality because at the top you can see like all pools and then like liquid pools and empty pools and like the favorites. Probably we didn't do, the best possible job, and we just kind of maybe need to change some of the behaviors or arrange the order of those tabs. But yes, like it's a good idea to be able to only see the pools that are active. So try like the liquid tab at the top. If it doesn't satisfy your requirements, then just tell us why, and we will try to fix it. Not a problem at all. Another great suggestion was in terms of like DEX to be able to edit both like the send and receive fields. Once again, like what we're doing right now is that you provide just like one of the numbers, and then the second one is calculated automatically using the current pool exchange ratio, and then you have these arrows that you can switch like between the two if you want, to start your calculation from the second asset. We thought it should cover most of the kind of usability issues in specifying how much you want to exchange, but maybe it doesn't, right? So try it out and provide as specific, kind of suggestions as possible, and all of them are great. The kind of another one that was mentioned in the DEX context, and it's actually a very important one. It's the custom slippage. Right now, what is happening, like when you're doing the trade, there is a automatic like 1% additional slippage possibility because of the high frequency transaction.
Okay, yeah.
And it's hard coded, like it's trying to send the transaction. If it cannot, and somebody kind of did the trade before you, it tries to adjust the parameters automatically. But yeah, like I totally agree that these and few other things should be added to the configuration. And it's actually a very good suggestion that we also need to implement. So it's also on our list.
Cool. I was wondering, I think when I was trying to buy something on the DEX, I can't remember, but it didn't work when I used the larger amount, but then I reduced it and it went through all good. And I wondered if that was due to like a slippage limit or that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it can be because of several reasons, but basically what's happening is that every time you type an amount, the application goes to the contract and it tries to predict. So it's called predict, but basically it's just trying to perform the operation, but without like the actually performing it, right? So it's trying to kind of
Okay.
understand whether it will be possible to perform this operation. Uh, or it could be a bug. So it's like one of those two things. Either there is actually a like specific conditions that prevent you from doing this trade, or in the early stages, especially there was an issue with the limiting amount of tokens, but we fixed that. So that should have been kind of at least improved. Another improvement is uh, more on the mining side because when you are using high frequency transactions, it's actually important so that for the miners to take the last possible job, right? Basically, you have uh, every time like there is like additional high frequency transactions are added, a new job is created by the node and sent to the miner. So if the miner doesn't take the last possible job, it will not work, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the smoothness and the kind of responsiveness of this mechanism greatly affects the user experience on high frequency transactions. So we did some fixes there, and we're also working kind of monitoring the situation, working with the miners to understand how we can improve that. And now it should be better like than when we just started with the DEX. So in terms of fluency and the amount of failures that you experience, it should be much better now. Please let me know if it's not the case, um, and then we will definitely try to investigate more. But at first, like when we just launched, there were a lot of failed transactions. You maybe remember, like a lot of things just kind of got stuck for a while and then failed, right?
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So this is something that should be better now, right? So
Okay.
we did work on that.
And
So the last thing about DEX that I have right now in the list is about ability to delete your own DEX pools.
okay. Yeah. I saw this.
And once again, like deleting a pool is a problem. It's an asset, it's in the contract, but it should be possible to kind of maybe hide it or just not show it in a way. So I believe it's better solved on UI level than actually like delete it from blockchain. Like I don't like deleting things on blockchain too much.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions about the DEX before we move to the next topic?
Let me have a look. No.
No. Okay.
I thought they might have been in the main chat, but they're busy discussing OpenAI and ChatGPT.
OpenAI is definitely something worth discussing these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, uh, moving on to the next topic that I would like to talk about, and it actually came from several different discussions in the community, like in terms of like privacy, privacy of Beam in general, like on Wimble, like Lilantos, all of these things. Like, why do you need to see shielded outputs or shielded UTXOs in your wallet? Like, is it really useful or not? All kinds of discussions that were had about this, and there are also kind of a lot of, especially for people who come like new to the community or come from different projects, uh, a lot of questions about like how Wimble actually works. And once again, it's kind of something that didn't change for a while, so it's sort of like new development. But I think it's important to kind of every once in a while do a review of these topics and kind of refresher for like how things work in Beam and why they work this way. So I will do this kind of relatively short overview and try to answer some of the questions that were raised in this regard.
Okay.
Okay, so the reason we use Wimble is because it has a lot of in addition to having privacy, it also has very useful kind of properties that we were able to utilize to do everything that we did with the smart contracts and all that, right? What allowed us to do this is the flexibility of this protocol. So first of all, yes, Mimblewimble originally only has online transactions, and the onlineness of those transactions, it has a major drawback that both the sender and receiver wallets need to participate actively and sign things during the transaction creation. But it also has these very positive properties for privacy that once you've created Mimblewimble transaction, you do not need to put any identifying information on chain about the addresses or any other information about who created those transactions, right? So all of these addresses that we have in Beam, they are only used inside kind of and during the wallet communication, they do not get on chain. And it's an amazing property for privacy because once you look at the blockchain, like historically speaking, right, you take the blockchain, try to analyze what's going on, you cannot decipher information that is just not there. So it's a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, like, the idea of this, like having addresses and them not being on the blockchain, is very different than if you're looking at Bitcoin, if you're looking at Ethereum or anything like this.
Absolutely. It's like one of the kind of big differences in Mimblewimble that makes it completely different from like most other protocols, even privacy ones, right? So no addresses whatsoever.
Yeah.
However, having said that, obviously it's possible for someone to create a Beam node and just record everything, right? Doesn't matter what's happening, like we're recording all the transactions and trying to gather all of the metadata and try to understand what's happening. So even with all of these kind of information available, still the Mimblewimble provides great privacy protection. And it's not really possible to figure out, even if you do record all of this metadata, because of dandelion that we use to kind of obfuscate the transaction creation path, because of the compact nature that we add kind of more and more kernels and inputs into the transaction as it goes through the dandelion. And all of these features, it's not really possible to understand like what's happening on the blockchain. The only real attack, theoretical attack, it was never done, but it's theoretically possible on Mimblewimble, is an active attack, which means that you want to trace link between two wallets, and then you just send a lot of funds to this wallet and you see what goes like to the other one, if you control the other one, of course. And then you can kind of understand like the link between two points, right? And once again, you will not see what was sent, how much was sent. You will only establish a statistical probability of a link. And that was exactly the point of all of the kind of criticism of Mimblewimble. But we need to understand that it's only during active attack, like somebody needs to actively try to figure out the link between two wallets. And then that's the only thing you can establish. However, even though it's like theoretical, there was an article about it and it was kind of blown out of proportion back in the day, which is why we decided that we want to address this issue, and that's why we added Lilantus. Lilantus is a protocol which is completely different and separate from Mimblewimble. It's like basically a different approach to creating a privacy crypto. And if you're familiar with the Firo project, previously known as Zcoin, uses this protocol and only this protocol. Like all of their transactions go through Lilantus. What Lilantus does is provides a shielded pool. It's like a kind of place where you can put a UTXO and then get out a completely different UTXO while still being able to prove that it's the same amount of coins. So what it does, it acts like this river that you cross to kind of, get your tracks, lost when somebody's tracking you. It creates completely unlinked UTXO. So let's say you have a transaction in Mimblewimble, it can be theoretically traced, and then when you go through Lilantus, this track is completely lost. So this is why we have added it in the first place. During this process, we were also able to create a new type of transactions, which we call offline transactions, Because if you are not sure that your receiver is online and is able to sign anything, they will just, you say, okay, don't worry, I will put your UTXOs in the Lelantos pool, pick them up later when you want. Yeah?
And this solved one of the big problems that we had early on prior to Atlantis, with wallets having to be online to communicate, and a lot of confusion in that regard, as also very different to Bitcoin,
Yes.
Ethereum, and simple push transactions. This whole online need to communicate in order to have the handshake to get the transaction through.
Yeah. So the addition of Lelantos has at least four very interesting kind of benefits and use cases. First of all, it resolves the linkability problem specifically for you, like personally, if you want to. It also improves the overall situation with linkability in general for the network, because the transaction graph gets broken every once in a while that somebody uses Lelantos, and then it basically kind of becomes much more difficult to track, even if you wanted to.
Yep.
It provides us with offline transactions, and it also provides what we call a public offline address, which is very useful for donations. So you can just publish it, just like you would your Bitcoin address, and then anyone can send you funds to this address, and then kind of basically, donate or whatever. Like if the receiver is known, it's a little bit less private, so it's only recommended to use when there is an organization that wants to receive anonymous donations. Otherwise, just use regular offline or Mimblewimble. Now, the question can be asked is why not use only Lelantos, right? If it's so good and unlinkable, why not just use Lelantos, which is what Firo does basically.
And a good question.
Totally. So there are several reasons. First of all, Mimblewimble provides a better scalability in terms of the blockchain size. So you can remove all the intermediate outputs and basically make the blockchain smaller and more efficient. Also, it provides us with the ability to create to use smart contracts, because smart contracts are built on top of, I'm not going to go into technical details, but something that is called Mimblewimble transaction kernel, right? So we do need Mimblewimble to use smart contracts, and also it's more kind of a lot of features that we have built is built on Mimblewimble, right? So the combination of Lelantos and Mimblewimble provides a hybrid that, in my opinion, is kind of combination of best of both worlds. So you do have the possibility of using Mimblewimble interactively using smart contracts, but you also have the possibility of doing offline transactions and breaking the linkability once again, which is a very kind of specific type of attack that needs to be actively used. It's not something that you can just gather info by analyzing the blockchain or just looking at it. It needs to be an active attack.
Yeah.
So that's why we have this kind of hybrid approach.
Yeah, I think it gives a very good best of both worlds kind of thing. I mean, there's the very hardcore privacy that comes with Lelantis there, if and when or for whoever needs it. And then the scalability of Mimblewimble and all of these other benefits that come with the two as well.
Yeah. Now, it's important to understand that once you get into smart contract territory, the privacy in terms of the amounts is no longer there. So when you deposit, let's say you're doing a transaction depositing into a vault or a DEX, or once the amount hits the smart contract, the amount itself is visible. Your identity is not, but the amount becomes visible, right? So we do not have confidential smart contracts, but we do have confidential transactions living in and out of smart contracts.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, which brings us to the question, one of the questions that started this kind of discussion, why do I see, or why do I need to see the shielded coins in my wallet, right? So somebody told me okay, so I open my balance, in the wallet using this small arrow, and I see available, and then I see that the available is actually split into two amounts, regular and shielded. Who cares? Why do I need to see these shielded outputs. And what does it even mean? Like, can I spend them? What's going on, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, a little bit of crypto archaeology. The reason you see it is because it remained from the days that we just added Lilantos, and we were very proud of it. So we wanted to explicitly kind of, uh, show you that, listen, you see those coins that you just sent, they're shielded in the shielded pool right now. Like it was like big news back then.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's funny. Like the fact that it's shielded doesn't mean that you cannot use them. You can use them just exactly like the regular coins. However, when the transaction is created, these coins are automatically extracted from the shielded pool and then kind of added to the transaction that you're sending. Which brings us to Jonathan Davis. How is that relevant? So when we're talking about privacy, and I really need to finally finish writing an article about that, like I've been sitting on it for a long time. But when I'm talking about privacy, privacy is not like a binary property, like private or not private. It's actually a huge range. For example, when you go into a house, in your house, you probably do not have a door which requires two keys to be turned simultaneously to open, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is you say, okay, with all due respect to like really amazing doors in Fort Knox or wherever that we see in the movies, I still want to live in my house like without the hassle of like turning two keys every time and typing in like 15-digit PIN and then like having my retina scanned, right? Uh, and that's exactly the point here. So within Beam, you can act as a like top-notch professional and never be traced, or you can act as an idiot and despite all of our best efforts, still expose yourself in million different ways. So what Jonathan Davis is saying all the time is he says, listen, it's not good enough for me to use this automatic algorithm of UTXO selection that Beam Wallet uses for all of its users. I want to be able to actually take each UTXO and spend it individually. And there are reasons for that. For example, if you are in need of complete separation between like two different, let's say, revenue streams, right? And you want those UTXOs to never mix up, you do need this kind of flexibility. However, I would say that you would better kind of use either two wallets or solve it somehow differently, because once again, even if you are doing everything manually, one tiny mistake and here you linked all of your things back together, right? So
Yeah.
that's why when we have created the desktop wallet, we have decided on this approach that we spend the most kind of, or the least private things first, like in terms of, like if you just, for example, put something in the shielded pool, it will not be spent until absolutely necessary, right? Like things like that. So we try to optimize for that, but we did uh, choose a more, I would say, practical approach. So it's all private, right? But there is kind of Fort Knox private, and there is kind of normal private, right? Like decent private.
Yeah.
So this is exactly like, the difference of being kind of very, very careful and doing everything manually and having a convenient functionality of just kind of clicking send or clicking receive and everything working smoothly without too much hassle. Back in the day, if you remember the early versions of Beam Wallet, we had a separate button on the left for the UTXO screen. The list of all of your UTXOs
Oh,
was shown. Yeah.
yeah. I
Uh,
cannot
right.
remember that.
Yeah.
Vague,
Right now,
vague
you still
memory.
have it. It's somewhere in. Oh, I found it in the settings. In the
Okay.
settings, you can go into Utilities tab,
Yeah.
and then it has Show UTXO.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, and in this list, you will see all of your UTXOs and what their status is, whether they're available or spent or shielded or what's going on with them.
Okay. And the types, regular, change. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So the change is the UTXO that you received as a result of a change. Like I sent you a 10 out of 100 UTXO, so the 90 will be returned to me as a change.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the main screens in Beam Wallet back in the day when we had space on the left.
Mm. Yeah.
Then in time, we saw that, first of all, most people don't even know what UTXO is, and a lot of people don't care. So we kind of removed it and hidden it there, right?
Yeah.
And this is exactly the point, right? So the kind of trying to find the best approach and trade-off between usability and privacy, it's always a challenge. And what we tried to do is to provide like all the tools that you need to be as private as possible, but without making the default behavior too kind of too difficult to work with. And one of the things that we are going to do with probably most likely, like I think it's almost a final decision, but we need to discuss it more. In the next desktop version is to change the default from running your own node to connecting to a remote node.
Yeah, I was just about to say that like the whole privacy thing is very similar to like decentralization. It's not black and white, and there's always trade-offs, and this is a great example. Like, is it better to be able to get users in fast, connected to a remote node, and later, if they wish to run their own node, obviously like less ideal in terms of decentralization, but it has the pro of being easy to introduce new community members and this kind of thing.
Yeah, so I'm still not sure. Like, we need to discuss it a little bit more for two reasons. First of all, uh, as you know, we often kind of try to make things too reliable, or not too reliable, too uh, strict in terms of like being on the safe side. I think atomic swaps is the great example because we actually required everyone to wait for like full 6 blocks, I'm sorry, on the Bitcoin network to
Yeah.
yeah, to confirm, and it made the swap like going on for hour. Um, but once again, it was the safest option, right? So that's what we chose.
Yeah.
And in terms of the running your own node, once again, like I'm going to run my own node no matter what, obviously. But people who are new and just want to connect quickly and enjoy the entire kind of feature set of the desktop wallet, it's annoying. I understand, like it's annoying to having to wait for a few hours to synchronize the blockchain.
Yeah.
Um, However, if we manage to kind of create a better and easier onboarding with, let's say, web wallet, which is going to be released soon, I will mention that in a few minutes, like what's going to happen next week. But maybe we will still kind of keep the desktop wallet for kind of, I would say, more serious users that would love to invest like these few hours to run their own node and be in the best possible kind of place in terms of control over the privacy and the network, then maybe we will just keep it as is and use the web wallet as this kind of quick onboarding tool and instead
Sure.
of the desktop wallet.
Yeah, that makes sense. As
Yeah,
as someone with a very poor internet connection that occasionally interrupts the spaces, I can definitely see the pro of like the web wallet and how easy that would be like to spin up versus desktop with the running your own node and this kind of stuff.
for sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, so one additional thing that I will just kind of mention briefly, it appears in the questions, is the usability of bridges, which is also, I would say, a little bit atomic swapish.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to work on that, and we will make it a priority because bridges are important. Right now, what we're doing is we're building the reverse bridges. I really hope that will be also kind of at least in the testing phase next week. What definitely is going to happen next week is the mobile and web wallet releases.
Nice.
Yes, and we are currently finalizing the DApp set to kind of be so everything will also work with the dApps, at least most of them, and definitely the DEX and like the more important ones. And then like we will complete this kind of part of the release cycle, I would say. And from there, it's going to be all about marketing and promotion and getting, getting it out there, because we, like, once again saw, and nothing new for us, but after a huge and massive kind of period of like a lot of releases that were long in building, finally coming to fruition, we saw that the price didn't move like 1 cent, and like not upwards at least. And it's definitely like not enough to just build things. So we need to figure out a way to finally get it out there, because once again, like I always compare to the green price, because historically that's how my brain is wired, and I'm like 70% market cap of green, with all due respect, and there is a lot of respect, but come on, like that's not right, right? We need to make a better effort of getting out there.
Yeah, and I think that we're at a very good place to do so, with having a lot more both infrastructure and also dApps, like building blocks in the application ecosystem. We have the Nefrit launched their stablecoin. The DEX is out now. I think it's a great time to be kind of pushing and promoting and bringing new people and projects into the Beam ecosystem.
Yeah, I think definitely now that we have all of the building blocks of DeFi, we have everything working, and kind of start to even polish things a little bit. And next week we will complete the mobile and the web wallet releases. I think that will be the main focus, definitely for me. And the community is doing a great job, but we really need to find and figure out the strategy of kind of making more noise, because we have a great technology and great product, and all that remains is to kind of promote it correctly.
Let everyone know and join us.
Yeah, like I really appreciate all of the effort that everyone is doing, and like yeah, like we need to kind of continue pushing this. Um, yeah, so that's kind of, I think, all the topics that I wanted to talk about today. Um, I probably forgot a couple of things, but there's always next week.
There, sorry, my computer's about to go flat, and so I'm going to try and race to see it. Oh, there was a question in the chat. When will the DEX rewards for BMX and MPH and Beam and MPH go live? I think from Epoch 18 there was the 2 votes, one for the rewards for Nefri putting into the stability pool, and another one for the DEX and rewarding
They're
those
both
peers.
they're both live.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're providing liquidity for Beam and MPH, you will
Yeah.
receive some BeamX. Is that
Max,
right?
yes, as a reward, obviously.
Okay. Where
Yeah.
where do you get that reward for those who are
So,
listening?
okay, so when you go into Nifrit application and you go into the stability pool tab, which is the top, like, right one, stability pool, and you click on adjust,
Yeah.
you will see two fields. The first field is how much NPH you have deposited into the stability pool, so you can adjust that amount. And below that, you will see how many BMAX you have farmed, and you can click on claim and withdraw that amount. If your trove was part of the direct redemption process, you will also see some Beam in that category. And if you go into the DEX application,
Yep.
I'm sorry. If you go into the DEX application and you add liquidity, or you have the liquidity pool token already for the Beam BMAX pool, then you need to go into the liquidity mining application, which is called Beam Liquidity Mining. And there you can submit select the lock period, and you will start farming BMAX immediately.
is, if I remember, maybe I misunderstand. I think what Jay meant is for the DEX, but BMX and Nefri pair
Okay.
and Beamer Nefri
Yeah.
pair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that pool is still like still does not specifically this pool does not produce liquidity mining yet. So it's still just
Okay.
in BMX and the free stability pool.
Cool.
Yeah, but yeah, it's work in progress too.
And let me see. Okay. More OpenAI stuff,
Oh,
which I think we've run out of time to dive into today.
no, no, not that I would know too much what to say, you know.
No, neither. My one suggestion, just in case, is to be polite to whatever AI you're interacting with, just in case of the worst outcome where we get taken over. At least they may remember your
Yeah.
politeness.
My usual answer is that I don't talk to computers.
Yeah.
But it's getting old fast, and you know, people like look at me like I'm weird. Like, what? You don't talk to computers? What are you talking about? Like, I do all my work through, ChatGPT. Like, I just tell it, like, write this report for me, do this homework for me, do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it's been great once again, and thank you very much for being here. So I will update you on all of the releases and what's going on, but just like so you know, from now on, my personal focus and like in terms of kind of things that I believe are important is just figuring out after all these years and all this work done and all of these great features deployed and wallets released and forks and everything, how to get a proper positioning on the market because it's getting ridiculous. Everybody sees that, but it's very frustrating. Like, I mean, I can really feel like this, in the chats and everything, and like yeah, like obviously for us who've been doing this for a while now, and we need, like, I believe we need to find a way like to how to finally crack it because it should be possible, right? There should be some way to get this uh, out there and to see like attract more users into the ecosystem because everything works great, it's all useful, it's all like it's private, it's like it's doing what it should. So that's going to be our focus going forward.
Absolutely. And I think a very exciting time to be pushing ourselves out there in this regard. Both because privacy is massively lacking, and we're seeing different issues come up all the time in non-private coins and ecosystems and this kind of thing, and also because we have now a lot of the infrastructure and dApps out that are
Yeah,
very useful for those interacting with the ecosystem.
absolutely.
Alex, thank you so much. It's been
Yeah,
a pleasure as always.
thank you, of course, and thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. See you guys.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye bye.